Hello, Grinners. Today we're going to look at what's involved in getting Dear ImGui, the graphical user interface library, working within Unreal Engine 5. And the end result is going to be a little something like this. We're going to have a actor on the screen, which includes a static mesh. We've got our ImGui window here. It includes a simple slider, and we have made it so that this slider will control the scale of the actor like this. You can see it's also displaying some debugging information around the frames per second as well. So as I stated at the beginning, we're looking to get Dear ImGui, or I'll just call it ImGui, running within Unreal Engine 5.01. And if you don't know, Dear ImGui is a free and open source graphical user input library for C++. It produces very beautiful looking GUIs that look like this. It is used in a lot of game engine and game design projects, and today we're going to look at how we can get it going inside of a Unreal Engine C++ project. We're not going to use the ImGui project off of GitHub directly. Instead, we're going to make use of a plugin, specifically this one right here by Sigros. Although we have to actually use a fork of this plugin. This one here works with Unreal Engine 4, but I was poking around in the issues and I saw that inside of this issue for Unreal 5 support, there was a comment at the bottom from Ben UI saying that he had put together a fork of the project that makes use of some of the work that was done by Wiggle Wizard to get this plugin working within Unreal Engine 5. To begin, the first thing we need to do is to create a Unreal Engine C++ project. Here you go. Notice I'm using Unreal Engine 5.0.1. If you are using a different version of Unreal Engine, the plugin that I'm using may not work for you. You might have to go and poke around on the repo to see if there are some other forks that are for your particular version, or if you're on Unreal Engine 4, you can use an unforked version of the plugin. But here we go. We're going to launch 5.0.1. We're going to go to games here, and we're going to create a blank game. And specifically, we need it to be a C++ project, and I'm just going to call it GUI test. And I will click create. And here we've got our blank project loaded up. This is a C++ project, so along with it, Visual Studio 2022 has also launched. Before we actually go any further, I'm going to close down both Visual Studio 22 and the Unreal Engine project so that we can install the plugin. So to install the plugin, again, I'm at the Ben UI Dev fork of the Unreal ImGui plugin, and we want to clone this repository into our project. I mean, one way of doing this would be to download the zip and extract the contents into the plugins folder. I'm just going to do it by way of Git. So I'm going to copy the HTTPS URL by clicking this button here. I'm going to go to the location where all of my Unreal Engine projects are stored, and I'm going to open up the GUI test project that we just created, and I'm going to create a new folder called plugins. And inside of this folder, I'm going to right click and I'm going to open a terminal. If you don't have the Windows terminal installed, you could use something like the command prompt or PowerShell. Mine opens up a Ubuntu prompt using the WSL, but again, any prompt will do. So if you have PowerShell or command prompt, and again, the other option is just downloading the zip file and extracting it to this plugins folder. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a git clone, and I'm going to clone the plugin with the URL that I got off of GitHub, and I'm going to clone it to a folder called ImGui. And if you are extracting from a zip, you're going to want to make sure that in that ImGui, you go directly to the root of the plugins folder. So you have that resources in the source folder, just like is seen on GitHub. Yeah, so that gets the plugin installed. We can now go back over here and we can open up our project again. And we get this message saying the following modules are missing or built with a different engine version. Would you like to rebuild them now? And yes, we do. That took a little bit of time, but here we are inside of the project. I should be able to hit play. And then if I bring up the console and type in ImGui toggle demo, if I hit enter there, we see this little demo window. One of the things you'll notice though is you can't grab it because the mouse control is currently attached to Unreal Engine proper. So again, we have to hit that same tilde key, and inside of the console we're going to say ImGui.toggle input, and this is going to give ImGui access to the mouse. And so now we can move this little debug window around. We can, use this slider. Click this to open up another window. This is the demo. We haven't written any code yet. It's just showing us that ImGui is in fact working. If that didn't pop up, you want to make sure that the plugin was fully recognized. And so to do that, you can go edit plugins and just do a quick search for ImGui. You want to make sure that that shows up. We don't just want that demo window. We want to be able to create our own custom windows. And so to display ImGui windows, this can be done inside of anything that ticks on a frame. And so I'm going to create just a plain old C++ actor that we can then inherit into a blueprint. And so I'm going to go over here in my content area, I'm going to go to C++ classes, create a new C++ class. Again, it doesn't have to be an actor. It could be a pawn, it could be in character, it could be anything that gets a tick. I'm just going to keep things simple with an actor. And I'll just call it ImGui actor. I'll make it public and I will create the class. To get ImGui going, I'm going to say include ImGui.h. And then one of the things you'll notice is that it gets a little squiggly underline, and it tells me that we might want to add this module to our build.cs file. Clicking this directly doesn't seem to fix the problem. It doesn't actually add it directly. So I'll show you what we need to do. We need to go into our project folder, into the source folder, and then nested within there, again named after our project, we're going to find the project name.build.cs file. And on line 11, we've got a list of our public dependency modules that are being loaded up, and we have to add ImGui to those. That seems to be step 1. It doesn't actually solve the problem of this file being recognized. See, the particular sort of help that it was associated with changing this file has gone away, but it still tells me that it cannot open the source file. The only way I've been able to fix this problem is to actually completely close both Visual Studio and Unreal Engine. And I'm still at the folder for my project, and I'm going to right click on the U project file. If we were in Windows 10, you'd see the option we need directly. In Windows 11, we need to go to show more options, and I need to use the generate Visual Studio project files option. So I'm not sure why we have to regenerate the project files, because the solution's already here, the .vs folder's already present, but this seems to sort of regenerate the files in such a way that the plugin is properly recognized. So I'm actually going to open up the project in a slightly different way. I found that when working with C++, it's actually better to open up directly from the solution rather than from the U project file. It seems to work better with the new Unreal Engine live coding module, which lets you change your C++ code on the fly. And so I have multiple versions of Visual Studio installed. So I right click on the solution, and I'm going to ask for it to be opened with Visual Studio 2022. And now you can see our error's gone away. So again, we had to update the GUI test.build.cs file and ensure that the image GUI was present there. And then we needed to regenerate those Visual Studio project files. Now we can do some image GUI stuff. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'll just recreate displaying the demo. It'll be a slightly different demo than we saw when we first were in Unreal Engine, but we're going to do it with code this time. And so I'm going to go down to the tick. The way that ImGui works is that we need to display it every frame, so it needs to go in a tick. And here I'm just going to go to the ImGui show demo window. And show demo window, it expects a Boolean. I think it can default to null, so I'll just sort of, yeah, that'll work. I won't pass in a Boolean. And I think that's all I'll need to do. And so if I save this and I click play here, this will actually start Unreal Engine. And when we're inside of Unreal Engine, what I'm going to do is I am going to create a blueprint based on the class that I just created, the C++ class. So here's my blueprint class. I'm going to say all classes, and I will search for my ImGui actor, and I will click select there. BP ImGui actor, sure. And just to give us something visual to play with in the scene, I'm going to add a cube, and I will make that the default scene root. And then I should be able to go ahead and put that into our scene like so. When I click play, look at that, we see our demo window. And that's because this blueprint is inheriting the tick from our ImGui actor, and that tick is showing the demo window. And again, we're going to have the problem where we can't grab the demo window without toggling input. Now there's a, I showed you that we could toggle input with the console, but another thing we can do is we can set up a hotkey for toggling that input. And this belongs to, this is a property of the plugin. So if I go to my project settings, and I scroll all the way down to the plugin section, I can go to the ImGui, and I'm going to set up a toggle input keyboard shortcut that anytime the letter T is hit in combination with, let's say, Shift and Alt, that's going to toggle input, whether the input is being used for Unreal Engine or the input is being captured by ImGui. If we now run here, if I click in, my input is being used by Unreal Engine, but then if I hit Alt Shift T, look at that. We're in the ImGui demo, and it's worth poking around in here because you can just see all the really cool stuff that can be done with ImGui. You can see that you can display images. You can see that you can do the plotting of charts and graphs. You can see that you can do color pickers and the like. So there's just tons and tons of possibilities with ImGui here. That's the basics of just showing this demo window. What if we wanted to do our own custom window? Well, we do that with a begin and end block. So the begin, the first argument is going to be the name of the window that we create. And I will just call this, let's just say, hello, my friends. And we got to pair our begin with an end. And in the middle, I can do an ImGui text. And I'll just do our kind of hello world within there. We've got a begin. We're going to put some text into that window. We've got an end. It's all happening inside of the tick. If I save this and I go back over to Unreal Engine and I click this little button down here to recompile, I should be able to run my code. And there we are. The window's not quite the right size because it's sized correctly for the content, but not for the title. But I have the ability to drag that out if I want to. Notice that the state of that input toggle is remembered. So it had been toggled before. If I want to toggle back to Unreal Engine, I can again hit Alt Shift T and the engine or the game captures my input, and Alt Shift T brings me back again to the ImGui window. The other thing I can show you is just as a bit of an aside is like the neat live coding capabilities of Unreal Engine with C++ now. So I'm going to leave this running and I can go over to my code here and I can maybe make another, this is the second line, save that. If I go back over to Unreal Engine here and I recompile while it's running, it'll do a hot swap of the code and it just changes live within my running application. And again, you see like I have to resize. So if that resize is bothering you to sort of fit the content, there is a way around that. There are a few extra arguments we can pass into begin. The second one is a Boolean that can be used to sort of set the state of whether or not the window is open or not. So it's a reference to a Boolean, and then if you click the X on the corner of the ImGui window, it'll set that Boolean to false for you, and you could maybe stop showing the window within your code. We're just gonna pass in a null pointer for that. We don't need that. The third of these arguments, I'm going to copy and paste just because it's a real long one. So I'm just going to copy it from off the screen here and paste that in. ImGui window flags always auto resize. And so again, if I save this and I go back over to my running application, notice it's still running. I can do this, another one of these sort of hot reloads here. And then you'll see that the window is properly resized to the content. I lose the ability to manually resize now though. So notice I can't sort of click in that corner and drag the window bigger or smaller. Okay, so that's a good demonstration of just a basic window with some contents. Let's add some functionality. What if we wanted to use this for debugging purposes? We wanted to change some of the properties on this actor by way of this window. So let's go back over here. Let's change this to, we'll say like cube scale. And what I will add in here is I'm going to make a little slider, and I'm going to associate that slider to a variable. I'm going to use some static variables here. These are variables that are going to, sort of the way static works within a function is that the state is going to be preserved across invocations of this function. So it's not going to go out of scope at the end of the tick. And so if I say static float scale, I'll set the scale initially to 1. Then I can make a little slider float like this, and I'll call it scale. Oh, it's slider. Pass in a pointer to that scale here, and then for my slider I want to specify what the minimum and maximum values are. So I'll say a minimum value of 0.1 and a maximum value maybe of 5, and that's all I need. So initially that's not going to control the actual scale of the actor at all, but we'll just run this just to see the slider. So again, I'll recompile. So there's my slider. Notice it's not actually having any effect on the actor because I haven't coded that in yet. But if I go back over here, I'm going to create another static variable. I'm going to call it scale old. I'll initially set it to scale. And then here, what I can do after the begin and end is I can do a little test. I can say, like, if the scale doesn't equal to the old scale, that means the float was used to change the scale. Then I can stash the scale into the old scale to recognize that that change has been made. And then I can actually scale this actor. So I'm going to say set actor scale 3D. And I need a 3D vector, so scaling in X, Y, and Z. And I'm going to have them all 3 dimensions be the same scale factor. So if I just say F vector 3D and I pass in scale, it'll use it for all 3 dimensions. And so I can go back over to Unreal here. I can recompile my code, and lo and behold, I have the ability to scale the actor with my ImGui window. So I've made this simple ImGui window. I've connected it to a property here that I can modify sort of by way of debugging. This is always being displayed. We might, start adding capabilities to our program to be able to show and hide this little debug window, along with, maybe you automatically capture the input toggle so that you can click on it, when it's showed, and when it's hide, you return your input over to Unreal. There's all sorts of things that you can do along those lines. In the demo that I showed at the very beginning, I was displaying the frame rate. Just as a final little addition here, we can display the frame rate as well below our slider. We'll make another text area here where we will pop out the frame rate. In this string, I will make a placeholder for a float, and then I will ask to get IO specifically the frame rate. back over to Unreal and recompile one last time. And there we are. And so there's tons that we could explore here. I'm going to leave that for potentially another video. I was thinking of maybe trying to make a generic actor component that included ImGui that could be added to individual actors to modify different parameters and maybe persist those to the disk in some way. Maybe you want to use it for game design. Maybe you want to attach it maybe to a player character and use it to tweak their character movement settings. I think there's a lot of really cool possibilities here, but again, we'll leave that for another video. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you all next time.